What up, what up, what up, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? How is everybody doing? Welcome to Atmos Love Zone. Y'all already know it's about to go down. Y'all, this is the hottest show on these YouTube streets. So the only thing I need to say right now is, let's go!
1, 2, 3. Welcome to the show.
Can you?
Grab me in positive synergy. I have been doubted through life. Been there and done it with trifling people who told me my style would not work. I told them they wrong. Been struggling too long. This song is for you. I'm proving you wrong.
Get out my way. Get out my way. Get out my way.
Get out my way.
Get out my way. Get out my way. Get out my way.
Get out my way.
Man, let's get it going, y'all. Let's get it going. Welcome to the show. Let me go ahead and put my link in the chat for the most amazing readers out here on these YouTube streets. Give me one moment here. Here we go. Welcome, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see the watermelons flooding. That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about right there. Let me paste this. I'm gonna pin this link to the top. Any readers out there that want to come in and participate in this reading, you are more than welcome. Let me see who up in here rocking with me tonight. Who is up in here? We got Missy. Happy birthday, Missy. Happy birthday, happy birthday. We got Davis Campos in the building. We got Fee in the building. We got Conchita. Hello. T-Band 1, what's good? Cherie Harris, hello. Sin Red, what's good? Andrea Wilkins, how you doing? Let's see who else up in here. Boom, boom. Dorothy Forsyth, hello. West Coast Bells in the building. What's good? King Johan, what's up, my brother? How you doing? Welcome in. Welcome in. Who else in here? Daughter of the Most High, hello. Andrea Wilkins, hello. Doug, what's up? Doug Daniel, how you doing? Yeah, finally caught alive. That's what's up. Welcome in. What's up, A2L? What's going on? Jewel Small, hello. Tammy Beckham, what's good? Miss Gemini, hello. Malik Thornton, what's going on? Medina Campbell, hello. Let me see. Miss Gemini's in the building. What's going on? All right, man. Purple, hello. Joan White, hello. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. King Johan, I see you behind stage just saying you're not connected, though. Deja Leone, hello. You excited for this one? That's what's up, man. Thanks for coming in. All right, y'all. So we got some people that's going to be coming up on here to help us get to the reading of these transcripts. But as y'all know, thank you, Andre. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So as y'all know, today, the defense rested its case, which means next week we are going to be having the closing arguments. So we at the end, y'all. We are at the end. We will be, I already got Daryl McDavid transcripts for the 7th. They're going to be coming tomorrow morning for the 8th. So all of y'all that sent money yesterday, you will get your copy of Daryl McDavid's. You got the first day. You're going to get the second day tomorrow. And then for today, we just need to come together so we can get today together. We can do that on throughout the weekend, though. We can get them on Monday. It's all good. Okay? So check this out. Somebody said we rebuke that Metro PCS and cricket demon tonight. You got the Metro PCS, Johan. What up, bro?
What it do, bro?
It said you got the Metro PCS phone, bro.
Hey, nah, man. Stop playing with me.
What's up, Miss Huggins? How are you? How you doing? All right, man. Let's see here. I guess my ladies will be coming sooner or later. Let me see. They'll be popping in here sooner or later. So today, let's look at what happened today, y'all. Let's look at what happened today. So let me go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Everybody is coming in. Thank you for coming in. We do appreciate you. Grab your popcorn. It's gonna be off the chain today. I can already feel it.
Hit them likes.
Hit them likes, y'all. Hit them doggone likes. All right. So it looks like the defense rested today in the R. Kelly federal trial, setting the stage for closing arguments and possible verdict next week. Look at that. Let's see what happened today. So it says here, the defense has rested in the federal trial of R&B singer R. Kelly and 2 former associates, setting the stage for closing arguments and a possible verdict next week. Lawyers for R. Kelly, his former business associate Daryl McDavid, and ex-employee Milton June Brown each rested after McDavid concluded more than 14 hours of testimony over the past 3 days. Oh my goodness. Prosecutors were still deciding whether to put on rebuttal witnesses, but the judge has said the trial will conclude next week either way. The quick end to the evidence phase of the case came after prosecutors spent hours on cross-examination Friday seeking to portray McDavid as too much of an insider to ever have been ignorant of Kelly's true actions, and indicated that he had significant financial interest in making sure Kelly's reputation stayed clean. So y'all, they really did try to paint Mr. McDavid as this insider. He's the money guy. He's the reason why everything was able to happen, because he controlled the money.
I got a question. They said to keep his reputation clean. They talking about R. Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah,
what when
bro.
he was when he was a baby?
Yeah, bro.
That nigga's reputation ain't been clean since before puberty.
Man, look.
Man, these people
crazy.
is delusional, bro.
This is crazy, bro. This is crazy.
And see, it's crazy, bro, because people don't even understand. I came in as not even as a supporter. I was like, okay, I need to see the facts.
Right.
Let me see the facts. Let me see the facts. I ain't
Right.
saying he did. I ain't saying he didn't. You know
Right.
what I mean? Let's see what happened. Hey, I
Indeed.
seen what. Hey, come on now.
Indeed, man. Listen.
Man.
Listen, man. As daughter of the Most High says, please clarify a grown man doing all this stuff at his free will.
Right.
Man,
Free will. Free will.
Yep.
Ain't nobody make him. Ain't nobody put a gun to his head.
Right.
Ain't
What's
nobody
up,
made him.
Taboo? Taboo, what's good? What's up, Tony? What's up, Battaglia? How you doing? Battaglia said she was rooting for him. It was a lot of people rooting for him.
Right. That's what I said. I was hoping that it came out like, no, like, okay, it didn't. Whatever. Nah, as the readings kept going, I'm like, this nigga guilty as hell.
Mm-hmm. Charlene said, just another angle. I'm an accountant, and it's crazy to think that I could go to jail for the actions of my employer.
Right.
It is crazy.
Right. That's how they get you, though, because they see where the money's going and how it's going there.
You remember that one movie? What's the name? House Party, where you say, if you ever do a crime, you better never get caught. All they gotta do with that damn jerk girl, follow the drip. Follow the drip.
All they gotta do is follow the P.
Follow the money.
I mean, that too. The tapes, the P, the money, all of it.
Follow the tapes.
Man.
All right. Let me see. Let's see. Let me get back into this reading. It says Daryl McDavid knew about the lawsuits alleging that Kelly's sexual misconduct, but simply wanted to pay the claimants off, to just give them money to make them go away. Assistant U.S. Attorney Janice Appeting asserted it wasn't about getting to the truth of the matter, right? She asked. McDavid responded that she was mistaking his testimony. It was about protecting your boss and protecting your pocket, Appeting asserted. No, ma'am, McDavid said. It was not about my pocket. McDavid and Kelly faced federal charges alleging they concealed evidence showing Kelly sexually abused his goddaughter. McDavid has made the rare and somewhat risky decision to testify in his own defense. His marathon testimony began Wednesday morning and could continue all day Friday, which it did. McDavid has repeatedly said that he has no reason to believe Kelly was involved in wrongdoing in the late 1990s and 2000s. When Kelly was reportedly accused of sexually abusing underage girls, McDavid testified that at the time of Kelly's 2008 Cook County trial, he believed the tape at the center of the charges was phony and that Kelly was frequently extorted by liars who were out for a payday. McDavid's defense depends in large part on the claim he believed Kelly was actually innocent during the time period of the alleged cover-ups, and that he only ever acted at the behest of all the lawyers and the investigators he hired. So he pretty much trying to say, listen, the lawyers told me it was best to go ahead and pay to try to protect his career, and I thought that was the right idea. That's pretty much.
See, this is the thing about that, bro. They keep saying to protect his career, protect his career. If the nigga wasn't doing it, you wouldn't have to protect it. It'd be already secure.
Thank you.
Like if they saying they admitting guilt without admitting guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
You're absolutely right, bro. You are absolutely right.
That baffles me.
Moment here.
It baffles me by the idiocracy of the hyperbole of these people, that what they be saying. It's like, are you like they smart, stupid?
Listen, man, it's really coming down to the point to where when you think of like people who actually look at this case, look at the evidence, know that the tapes were there, know that the evidence was shown, the text messages, the letters, the cell tower coordinations, all of that stuff, and still say free him for what?
To do the same thing again?
Free him to do what? Right? It's just insane. It says here, McDavid's defense depends in large part on the claim that he believed Kelly was actually innocent during the time period of the alleged cover-ups, and that he only ever acted on the behest of all lawyers and investigators he hired. On prosecutors' cross-examination, they noted that the main lawyers and investigator who McDavid said informed his views on Kelly's innocence are all now dead. So are you the only one left to describe what was said and what was not said during those conversations? Is that right? Appeting asked. McDavid said no. McDavid confirmed, however, that he made a significant amount of money managing Kelly's affairs before the two men had a professional falling out around 2013. McDavid had been somewhat contentious on the stand, telling the prosecutor repeatedly that he thought that she was misrepresenting his previous testimony in her questions. Several times, he had a confused expression cross his face, opened his mouth, and closed it before saying, "I don't recall." At one point, when asked about how much he'd earned in commissions from Kelly's companies during a particular year, McDavid asked Appeting if she could total it. "You're an accountant. Can you total it?" she joked, prompting jurors and spectators to burst into laughter. Wow. McDavid threw his hands up and smiled, saying, "I don't have a calculator." Wow. Appeting noted that McDavid previously said that he didn't believe Kelly's accusers, in part because they didn't go to the police with their claims. But she noted that McDavid never called law enforcement when he thought that Kelly was being stolen from or extorted by people like prosecution witness Charles Freeman. Good point. You didn't call the police on Charles Freeman for his extortion attempt. You didn't want police to see the tape that contained child pornography, right? "No, ma'am," McDavid responded. McDavid again repeatedly claimed he did not see any of the video that Kelly's team recovered. In a particularly testy exchange, prosecutors also pressed McDavid on whether he was really absent for a crucial meeting at the Oak Park Hotel. Kelly's godfather, let me see who's this. Tanya!
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, Tanya, with the sleepy tea?
I'm good. It's Friday.
That's
It is
good.
Friday.
You gonna be up today?
I'm up. It's Friday.
She said, I ain't gotta get up to my oxtail as long as I want to.
What's up, Miss Frugal? What's up, Rita the Ego? What's going on? What's going on? Take R. Kelly and give us Tupac back. What's going on? Okay. Let's get back into this. So it says, Kelly's goddaughter, known in the trial as Jane, had previously testified that at a meeting, Kelly told her parents about their sexual contact. Jane said that he could not recall whether McDavid was present. However, her mother, Susan, testified McDavid was there, but said Kelly did not make any admissions of wrongdoing. McDavid on Friday strenuously denied being present for that meeting, a claim prosecutors sought to cast doubt on. McDavid previously testified that the meeting would involve delicate matters. It's delicate because Kelly is admitting to having sex with his goddaughter for the first time, right? Apatine asked. Oh my God, Kelly's defense attorney Jennifer Bonjean explained. Judge Harry Lindenweber then sustained an objection before one was even made. After another question about the meeting, McDavid leaned back in his chair and said directly to Apatine, "You got to do better." I mean, he then quickly said, "I'm sorry for saying that," clamping his hand over his mouth. Damn. What? Wow. Another sharp exchange occurred shortly before the lunch break when Apatine asked whether it was true that McDavid had hugged a man after he returned a Kelly sex tape from him in exchange for money. Huh? No, ma'am, McDavid said. You have to answer yes or no, not huh, Apatine said. Toward the end of his direct examination Thursday, McDavid testified that it wasn't until viewing evidence during the current federal trial that McDavid saw things differently. For the last 3 weeks, I've learned a lot of things that I had no idea about in 2008, McDavid said. Asked if he wanted to believe Kelly's claim that his accusers were all liars, McDavid said, "I absolutely did." When asked why, his voice started to break. "Because I loved him and I believed him." McDavid said, as I stand here today, I'm embarrassed, sad. His answer was cut off by loud objections from Kelly's attorney as well as prosecutors. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine how that exchange went in that courtroom? That was kind of with him being on there and about lip quivering, about to shed tears.
Yeah, right.
Over the fact that he just now finding out over the last 3 weeks of how much of a monster R. Kelly was.
He's almost in tears because he knows nobody believes him and he's going to jail.
Well, it could be a part of the act.
That's what I'm thinking. If anything, it's just an act.
I mean, look, let's be honest now.
I cannot wait to actually read this transcript, to be so honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to this more than anything.
Yeah, it's right around the corner.
I know.
It is right around the corner. We already got the first day. We just got to if we could all come together and get today's, I think that we will be good. I think it's averaging out at about, today's went for a minute. So yesterday's was like a total of 258. So we had a little bit of rollover, but we'll have to see what today's is. So anybody who's we'll get yesterday's transcript on tomorrow, and today's will probably come on Monday unless we can raise today and then get it in tonight. So we'll get it together though. So it says here,
You got mine today,
Yes,
right?
I did. Thank you so much.
No,
I got
of course.
you. On cross-examination Friday, prosecutors asserted McDavid would long ago have been aware of an accusation made by two witnesses who testified at this trial. The two, identified only as Tracy and Nia, made claims that Kelly's team settled long before his trial. McDavid was even named in the suit filed by Nia, though McDavid said he had no memory of that. Earlier in that trial, jurors had seen excerpts of 3 videos purporting to show Kelly having sexual contact with his underage goddaughter, Jane. Defense attorneys have not directly challenged the fact that Kelly and Jane are depicted on the sexually explicit footage. And prosecutors presented extensive testimony from Jane that Kelly had sexual contact with her innumerable times, beginning when she was just 16, then pressured her to lie about it. Kelly, 55, faces an indictment charging him with 13 counts of producing and receiving child pornography, enticing minors to engage in criminal sexual activity, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Also charged are McDavid and Milton June Brown, who are accused of alleged scheme to buy back incriminating sex tapes that have been taken from Kelly's collection and hid for years of alleged sexual abuse of underage girls. So I can just imagine. I know that we did have somebody in the courtroom today that was actually there that said that it said that the whole time when McDavid first started on the stand, this was maybe a couple of days ago, he started off really calm, professional, didn't really show much emotion. But today, he got agitated. And it also, I understood that for some reason, Miss Apatine was they said she was very agitated today before court started. The person that was there said that she was very, as if she had just gotten into an argument before she came into the courtroom. So, instead of her coming in with the very nice, sweet, how you doing today? It was really raw dog, gritty, bulldog. Answer my question, please. Like she was really, really just in a mood today. It was just, she started off with a really bad day.
She pulled out her inner Bonjean.
She did.
I want to play her, Amos. I want to play her.
You want to play her too?
Yeah, against McDavid.
Indeed. We got you. Indeed.
Who's doing McDavid? Are you at, Miss?
I don't know. I might let what Bon
or me and Johan.
Johan, what you thinking? Now Bonjean has a very here's the thing. He's not too animated. He's very, very dry, but very professional at the same time.
He's an
not
old
like
accountant.
He's like a nerd. Like Charles Freeman at all.
No, he's got to be like a nerd. He's an old accountant.
Yeah. So I'm still thinking about it. We'll cross it.
We'll play around it. Yeah.
I don't see D Nice in here, so what's his name? Nice. What's his name? Mike Nice.
Ike Nice.
Ike Nice. Yeah. I don't know where he at. Probably busy, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. We got enough people on. We got Super Tanya here. And we'll have others come in.
If we have another girl, King Johan could pull out the girl. Let me hear the girl.
Hey, hold on, wait a minute. How you just assume that?
Pull him up.
What up, boss baby?
I might. Hold
boss baby in the building. Melissa Jackson, what's up? Melissa Jackson says, to be honest, I think everyone needs jail time. I'm grossed out by people who try to justify any of this. Melissa, listen, you got a great point.
Did we already read about the Hankerson, what the prosecution wanted to do?
What's that?
Did you hear the prosecution wanted to call Barry?
Oh,
did they?
Yeah, they wanted to, but the judge said if they wanted to rebut the case, they get to do the rebuttal after the defense rests. So the judge, they said they wanted to call Barry Hankerson, but they needed time to get him, and the judge said nope. Either
K-Love
he's
says she
here
can help
today or
later.
no.
She at work. Okay, thank you, K-Love. Whenever you can. That's great. Renee Glover, hello. How are you? How are you? Love is fair. What's up, bro? What's going on? All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this. And you're gonna have to play Superwoman. I'll try to help you as much as I can until we get another
I
lady
know
in
you
here.
will.
Yeah, I try.
Can you imagine though if Barry Hankerson took the stand on the prosecution side?
Oh God.
Man,
That would have been some
man,
shit.
man. I think that'll be worse than Freeman.
Man,
Yeah.
listen.
I
Especially
think that'll
after
be.
hearing that McDavid blamed everything on him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So so
Mhm.
now he telling everything. So I don't know if a lot of the stuff that he will be saying would be
Well, no,
admissible
they're not
though.
going to let him. The judge isn't letting him.
Right,
It had to
exactly.
be today or never.
Oh,
But
It would be
it would have been some craziness.
that
I
would
know
be
that would have been dope.
simply crazy. All right, y'all. So we are going to let me pull this up over here. And let me see. Let me see. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. So this here, we are starting at the top of 2784. Let me see if I need to bring this in a little bit more for y'all to see. There we go. 2784. We can start actually so it's Mr. Arnold on the stand, and it looks like it is Miss Judge. So you can start off as Miss Judge. And then Mr. Arnold, I'll let you go ahead and do Mr. Arnold, King Johan.
All right, cool.
Let's start at 23.
Good morning, Mr. Arnold.
Good morning.
Just to let you know, the jurors are sitting out there, and these are the attorneys. Can you spell your last name, please?
Arnold, Arnold.
And tell the jurors, how far did you go in school?
I attended some college at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. And then I went to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences for an audio engineering certificate.
I'm sorry, I forgot my glasses. And did you finish that program at the Conservatory of Recording Arts?
Yes, I did.
Were you rewarded any type of degree or certification?
I got a certificate in audio engineering.
And when did you receive that certificate?
August of 1998.
As part of that program, were you required to participate in an internship?
Yes, I was.
And where did you do that?
Chicago Tracks Recording.
And when did that Chicago Tracks internship begin?
September of 1998.
I'm sorry?
September of 1998.
Thank you. When you started at Chicago Tracks, was that located in Chicago?
It was 865 Larrabee.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the address?
Yes.
Maybe just sit a little closer so
865 North Larrabee.
thank you. And Chicago Tracks is a studio where Mr. Kelly has recorded.
That is correct.
You were not working for Mr. Kelly as an intern in 1998, is that right?
No, I was not.
Who were you working for?
Chicago Tracks.
Did you see Mr. Kelly in the time frame when you were interning in 1999 at Chicago Tracks?
Yes, yes, I did.
And was that because he was recording?
Yes.
At some time, did you transition and begin working for Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, yes, I did.
And when was that?
Spring of 2003.
And did you remain in the same building on Larrabee?
In 2003? Yeah.
So you were working for Mr. Kelly at the same location, but now you're working directly for him, correct?
I mean, I was. Yeah, yes, I was.
And was that under Base Productions? Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
So you worked beginning in about 2003 for Mr. Kelly. When did when did you stop permanently working for Mr. Kelly? What year was that?
Hold real quick. A2L, I would love for you to come on and help us. Just hit the link right at the top, and I'll let you on. I appreciate it. I'm sorry, Tanya. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. That's King Johan's turn.
Okay.
Number 12.
2011.
So, is it fair to say you worked for Mr. Kelly for approximately 8 years?
Yes, that's correct.
And during those 8 years, were there any time frame when you left your work and came back?
Yes, in 2008, I left between January and May, I believe.
So for a few, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, between January and May of 2008.
So aside from those couple of months, you worked directly for Mr. Kelly from 2003 to 2011, right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
And you worked in the same building where Mr. Kelly was recording, beginning in about 1998. Is that fair?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you have any interactions with him when you were working at the studio, but not working for him?
I mean, yes, yeah, I did.
And what kind of interactions?
So I would answer phones sometimes, run messages, bring a message to him while he's in the studio. Could be responsible for taking a person or picking up somebody, driving them, to and from the studio.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to all of your duties in just a minute. I just want generally what you did when you weren't really his employee at the time. While you were working, when you began your employment with Mr. Kelly, did you know my client, Mr. Milton Brown?
Yes, I did.
And did you work with him?
Yes, I did.
You both worked for R. Kelly, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And have you seen or spoken to Milton Brown since you left in 2011?
Yes, I have.
When was the first time you spoke to him after you left your employment?
It was it was in 2016. About 5 years after I left.
And have you spoken to Mr. Brown anytime since 2011?
Yes,
And when was that?
July 9th of this year.
And what prompted that conversation?
I had a work function in Las Vegas, and I reached out to see if he would, want to meet me for, have a drink and, just say hello.
And you knew Las Vegas is where Mr. Brown lives?
Yes, yes. Sorry, I knew that's where he lived.
When you reached out to Mr. Brown, you had not been subpoenaed by me to come and testify, correct?
No, I had not.
And since you've been subpoenaed, you have not spoken to Mr. Brown.
So A2L, if you could, you can come in and be Miss Pozzolo, or if Bonjean, whoever needs to object. Can you hear me, A2L? I know you're on mute right now. I see you're muted.
Yes, Your
Okay.
Honor. I'm going to object to the leading question.
Have you spoken to Mr. Brown since you received the subpoena?
No, I have not.
You and I have spoken over the phone a couple of times about your testimony today, correct?
Yes,
And you and I met in person on one occasion this week, correct?
A2L, that will be you.
Objection. Leading. I'm sorry, I hit mute again.
I don't know how she could do it. Overruled.
It could take a little longer.
Go ahead.
You may answer.
yes,
When you came to my office and we discussed your testimony, Milton Brown was not there, correct?
that's correct. He was not.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you about your employment tests and what you did as R. Kelly's employee beginning in approximately 2003. Can you tell the jurors what types of tasks you did and what your title was, if you had one?
In 2003, I was the studio manager. My job would be to maintain the building that the studio was in. I would manage the runners, people that are answering the phones and support the assistant engineers.
Okay. You mentioned runners. Can you explain to us what runners do?
Yeah. It would be the two runners, the runner that that would be in the entry level intern or paid position, and their job would be to go on runs to pick up supplies, food, pick up people, take people where they need to go, just to clean the studio, things like that.
Thank you. And you also mentioned that you looked after the maintenance of the building. The building you are referring to is Chicago Tracks on Larrabee, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that a large building?
Yes, it was around 22,000 square feet.
I'm sorry, it was around what?
22,000 square feet.
And did that building have a lot of areas and rooms, if you know?
Yes, it had a lot of rooms, a lot of studios and offices and storage, and it was a very big building.
And earlier, you mentioned answering the phones. During this time when you were working for Mr. Kelly, were you ever answering the telephone?
Yes.
And where was the phone located?
Uh, in a reception area, like right as you entered into the building at Track Studio at Chicago Tracks at 865 Larrabee.
Can you explain to us? So you are sort of describing a reception area
Correct.
where there's a Chicago Tracks phone at the reception area. Is that right?
That's correct.
And if an individual arrived and wanted to get in the studio, how would they do that?
They would show up to the gate, and there was a call box at the gate, and they'd be able to push a button. I would ring the phone, and that was in reception.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned the gate. So an individual couldn't just walk up and knock on the door. It's a secured building, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you describe the studio as a busy place?
Yes, it certainly could be.
Chaotic at times?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Would you describe it as chaotic at times?
At times, yes.
All right. Did you ever, as part of your employment for R. Kelly, have to maintain or work with petty cash?
Yes, frequently.
And could you tell us about how that would work or what you would need a petty cash? How you would get petty cash and what you would use it for?
I mean, sure. There was always cash at the studio to pay for food or anything, supplies, that were required. We'd collect the receipts after the petty cash was low, and take the receipts to Dale McDavid's office in Oak Park. We'd request a new check, and we get a new check. We go to the bank and cash it, and okay.
Okay, I'm just going to stop you there so that I can. In addition to petty cash for supplies that you discussed, would you get cash for any other reasons?
I mean, sure, there could be other reasons, yes.
And what would those reasons be?
I mean, it could be for out of a request from Mr. Kelly to pick up a check. It could be for money, for the bus driver to stock the bus or pay for fuel for the trip.
And how is it that you would learn that you would have this task to complete? To go pick, let's say, for example, to pick up money.
Yeah, yes, I would. Okay, I would be notified that there was a check that needed to be picked up, taken to be cashed, or I could have gotten a receipt from Mr. Kelly on on somebody directly with Mr. Kelly to say that there was a check that needed to be picked up.
And when you say the check needed to be picked up, would that well, where would that pickup occur?
At the base production office in Oak Park.
And who worked at that office?
Darren McDavid.
So sometimes you would pick up checks from Daryl McDavid, and then what would you do with those checks?
I would take the check to the bank to cash it, unless it was a check that was made out to an individual, and then we'd have that available for the individual to pick up. But petty cash checks, I would just take that to the bank and cash.
Well, did you ever see checks that you received from the office in Oak Park from Daryl McDavid that would have your name, Tom Arnold, on them?
Yes.
And what would you do with those checks?
Those checks would be for cashing unless it was, unless it was my paycheck.
And could you tell the difference between a paycheck and a check that was written out for you?
Oh, yes.
How could you tell the difference?
There would be a memo line on the check.
And so, talking about the checks that you had received that were not salary or not paychecks for you, did you have any idea what you were cashing the check, or, well, who you were cashing the check for, who you were going to give the cash to once you went to the bank, I guess, would be a better way to ask it?
Objection. Foundation.
I'm talking about in the 2003 period.
Yes, I would know what the check was for when I cashed it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't answer that question correctly.
No, that's fine. Do you know who it was for or what it was for?
I would say potentially both. The purpose of the check I would be aware of before I would have to go to the bank to cash it.
So what would you do with the cash once you left the bank?
For example, with a petty cash check, there was a space for the petty cash to be kept. If it was told to me that the check was to be cashed and the money was to be given to Mr. Kelly, I would bring it to him and make sure he gets it to the correct people to get it to him. So, as instructed.
So even if a check is written to you, it's not really for you to spend the money on yourself, correct?
That's correct.
And about how many times did you get checks written to you that you would pick up from Mr. McDavid's office?
It could be weekly, sometimes monthly, but sometimes a couple of times a week. It was sporadic,
But fairly regularly?
but frequently.
And would you say that was throughout your employment from 2003 through 2011?
Yes, I would.
And once you turned over cash that you or that R. Kelly requested, do you have any idea how it would be spent?
Only if on, only if there was a receipt that was made afterwards that I'd be able to tally up and bring back to the office for the next check. But otherwise, I couldn't say for sure where all the money was spent.
You certainly were not spending it though, right?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
You can answer.
I would spend it if I would spend it if it was directed, if I was directed to.
But when you picked the money up at the bank, generally speaking, you had, well, your job was to deliver it to R. Kelly or someone else that R. Kelly directed you to give it to, correct?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
You can answer.
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
So if you remember, what was the largest check or the largest amount of cash you ever gave to R. Kelly or picked up on behalf of R. Kelly?
That was a time I picked up. I think it was 125,000 in cash.
So is it fair to say there is a fair amount of cash in the world of R. Kelly because of his success? Would you agree with that?
Objection.
Overruled.
You may answer.
Yes.
When you picked up the $100,000 or $125,000, what did you do with that, if you recall?
I don't call specifically. I would have brought it back to the studio because it was in the studio. It was here that I picked it up from. Yeah. I would have brought it back to the studio. I don't call who I gave it to specifically.
Do you remember what it was? What it was carried in? This $100,000 or $125,000 in cash?
I put it in my back pocket, in my backpack.
And I think you mentioned that during your employment, you or one of your tasks was to drive or transport individuals for Mr. Kelly. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's correct.
And talking about the time frame when you were in Chicago, 2003, 2004, 2005 area, who would you drive? Just generally speaking, who what kind of people would he ask you to drive around? Were you driving around Mr. Kelly?
Very frequently in those days.
Okay, who would you drive?
Guests, basketball players, uh, that he played with, musicians sometimes.
Let's start with the basketball players. Where would you typically be driving them? Picking them up, dropping them off? Where would that be if you remember?
It could be I would pick them up from their home, bring them to the studio to the gym, or take people from the studio to the gym, or vice versa.
When you say gym, what are you referring to?
In 2003, 2004, 2005, he played basketball a lot in Markham, Illinois. And so we would oftentimes be taking people to and from the gym, or the other gym, that might be elsewhere in the city.
In addition to transporting people to and from the gym, did you ever pick anyone up at the airport?
I believe so.
And again, I'm just referring to the time frame when you were at Chicago Tracks, 2003, 2004, 2005. And how did you learn that you needed to, say, go pick someone up at the airport? Who was giving you that instruction?
I would be instructed by Mr. Kelly, or somebody that I knew that was with him that could, that would be telling me on his behalf.
And were you the only person who would drive to pick people up or to run errands for R. Kelly in such a way, to transport individuals in such a way?
No, there was quite a few people that did that.
Can you tell us who?
The runner was doing. Even the assistant engineers, musical directors, security in the room in some instances, I suppose.
Do you remember? Oh, well, sorry. Do you remember the name of the musical director that you are referring to?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us?
Donnie Lyle.
So it's fair to say there's several different people who would drive people and transport them on behalf of Mr. Kelly. 5.
That's correct.
And you talked about guests for Mr. Kelly. Can you tell us what that? Well, I guess what do you mean by guests?
I mean, yes, that would be, that would be someone that is a female that's there to visit Mr. Kelly.
And did you sometimes pick up guests, or would you drive or drop them back, or how did that just work?
Yes, I picked them up and dropped them off places. Dropped them off places.
And if you know, did you treat guests any differently than you did other people that you were driving around?
Yes,
And what was different?
the manner in which you transport them in the car, you would make sure to have the rear view mirror turned up. The radio at a slightly higher value. Then you would speak to them.
How
You
did
wouldn't
you
speak to them.
and how did you learn that you wouldn't speak to them?
It was I don't know who told me the first time. It was common knowledge, and shared by all employees that was rules and expectations and the expectations.
So that was a culture in the office that you learned.
That's correct.
And when you picked up individuals and you were transporting them somewhere, any individuals, would they generally get in the back seat?
Nah, not all the individuals would know.
Or is there some individuals that did always?
Yeah,
And who would they be?
I mean the guests would always be in the back seat.
And have you, well, during this time frame, 2003, 2004, and 2005, have you ever had occasion to drive to Mr. Kelly's attorney's office?
Yeah,
And do you know who his attorney is
Eddie Jenson.
or was at the time?
That's correct.
And do you know where his office is?
It's in downtown Chicago.
You talked about rules or culture at the studio, that you couldn't talk to people or look at them when you were driving guests. Was there ever was there a punishment if you disregarded anything like that?
Yes, there would be.
And what would that punishment be?
It could be a fine. Some people, it would be a fine, most likely. We did, I believe, fire a few interns or runners for doing stuff like that, but I don't remember specifics. I don't, but I know it was there was consequences in some regards.
And so this is part of your employment. Mr. Kelly or his company would deduct money from your paycheck if he was dissatisfied with the way you were doing your job. Is that fair to say?
It did happen.
And was Mr. Kelly also at times generous and would give you a bonus or?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Yeah, he would.
You mentioned that you picked up money and had it in your backpack. The $100,000 or $125,000 that you gave to one of R. Kelly, or either R. Kelly or one of his employees, back in 2003 or 4 or 5. Can we talk about bags generally? That's a topic that's come up in this case. As part of your as part of your job, did you ever carry bags of any kind for Mr. Kelly?
Yes, I did.
Was that a fairly regular event?
Yeah, I would say so.
And what type of bags would you be transporting for Mr. Kelly?
It would be very common to have a gym bag or his backpack or a suitcase or a duffel bag of some kind.
And this is because Mr. Kelly isn't going to carry his own bags. He has people, and they would carry his bags for him. Is that fair to say?
And we kept a lot of bags for various activities.
For example?
Basketball or working out at the gym, boxing, a change of clothes.
And is this something you did throughout your employment with Mr. Kelly?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. At some point in time, Mr. Kelly moved his studio from Chicago. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you know where his studio moved?
To his home in Olympia Fields.
And have you been to that studio?
Yeah, I worked at that studio.
Okay. Can you describe generally where the studio was located and, how large the house was? Give us a general idea of the place, please.
Sure. The studio is located in a portion of the basement. The house was, I don't know, 18, 20,000 square feet. It had bedrooms and a lot of variety of different rooms in the house. It was a big house.
There was a rainforest, I think, at one point. Do you remember that?
There is a pool with a jungle theme in the house, yes.
And it was in the southwest suburbs, is that right?
Yes.
And the area itself, was it inaccessible because it was secured like the studio was?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled. He can.
The house had a gate that surrounded the property.
And when you started, you said you transferred to the office or the studio when it moved to Olympia Fields. Did your job tasks change?
No, essentially the job was exactly the same. I was the studio manager of the studio at his house.
And your job, your description of your job tasks were pretty much the same as well.
Yes, that's correct.
And when you went every day to work, where did you go?
To the studio that was in the basement of the house.
And did you frequently see Mr. Kelly's children or wife when you were at work?
No, not frequently.
Did you also pick up and drop off guests for Mr.
Y-
Kelly to this
yeah,
address? Or to this house and studio in Olympia Fields?
yes, I did.
So that task continued throughout your employment.
Yes, it did.
Was there a procedure if a guest wanted to move from one room in the house to another room in the house that you are aware of?
We would get a phone call either to the studio or to the phone asking to either asking for the request or most likely ask to speak to Mr. Kelly.
And at any time, did you become a road manager?
Yes, I did.
And can you explain what the tasks of a person who is a road manager are, please?
We would travel for appearances, video shoots, concerts, performances, parties. It would be my responsibility to make sure that everybody has the correct place there. They're going to travel on time. That was the bus, that the bus is stocked with supplies and the correct people are where they need to be.
Would you travel with Mr. Kelly?
Yes, I would.
And is it fair to say a fair number of people also traveled with him
Yes, that's fair to say.
when he's on tour?
Yes, on tour also. Yes.
And how many buses is there a set number of buses, tour buses, that you know of, or did that change throughout your employment?
It changed depending on, some of the trips over the course of my employment.
And were the buses owned by Mr. Kelly or were they rented?
Oh no, they were rented.
And were those quite large?
Yes, they were big for tour bus.
And could you describe like some of the rooms in the buses?
Oh, sure. Uh, so the bus would have the driver in the front with the curtain that separates out for like kind of like a living room with the kitchen, like a galley, like a galley kitchen. Then there would be a door that led to the series of bunks, and then another door where in his bus it would it could have a king size bed or else other buses may just have a room like a lounge in the back.
So substantially larger than a say minivan, right?
Oh yeah, substantially larger.
And did you travel a lot with Mr. Kelly as a road manager?
Yes.
And did you travel to many states throughout the United States
Yes.
and travel internationally?
Yes, I did.
And are you familiar with the concept of advanced for or advanced promotions? I think that's something we talked about, advancing promotions.
Advancing would be someone that would arrive to a site beforehand to make sure it was set up as required to verify that it's ready to go before he would show up someplace.
And that's kind of because he's a superstar and he has people who go and make sure everything is ready and how he wants it to be when he gets somewhere, right?
Yes, he would have a rider or an agreement for some locations that need to have certain things. They need to make sure that it's correct before he would arrive.
All right,
And
let's go a little switch. Thank you, Tanya. A2L, would you mind jumping in and reading? Who are you reading right now? Tanya?
Miss.
who am I reading? I'm Miss Judge.
Miss Judge, okay. Could you read Miss Judge right now, A2L, and can you jump to Miss Pozzolo and Bonjean, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you
Okay,
went up.
So you'll be at 25, Tanya.
Okay. I'm going to object.
Okay, about these subjects.
Well, could we do a sidebar, Judge?
Proceedings heard at sidebar on the record. As you see, they are redacted.
Ooh.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a
I know.
pretty good
Can you
spot.
imagine what they're saying?
Mm-mm.
End of sidebar.
We're going to change subjects. You mentioned before petty cash and getting cash at banks. Can you describe briefly what the procedure was? You know, as you knew it to be, for when that would have to happen.
Yes, I would drive to the office in Oak Park to pick up the check. I would go to the bank, sign for it, get the cash from the bank, and then head back to the studio or office, whatever was required for the trip.
Generally speaking, did you do this with other people or by yourself?
Generally by myself.
One moment, please. On the day that you picked up $100,000 that you put in the backpack and delivered to the studio, were you by yourself?
I was by myself when I picked up the cash, but June Brown picked me up from the bank, so I wouldn't have to walk back to the studio.
Okay, and now when you got back to the studio, did Mr. Brown drop you off?
I don't recall.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions on behalf of Mr. Kelly? Any questions on behalf of Mr. Kelly?
Just one or two questions, Judge.
All right.
Mr. Arnold, I just want to go back to the 90s when you were an intern at Chicago Tracks. When did you start there again?
September 1998?
Okay. Mr. Kelly did not own Chicago Tracks, did he?
No, he did not.
Okay. And there were other artists or other musicians who used Chicago Tracks as a recording studio back in the late 90s, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And did Mr. Kelly ever own Chicago Tracks?
At Chicago Tracks? No.
Okay. And could you tell me again when you moved to the recording studio at his home? Is that right?
In 2000 and I'm sorry, 2004.
So presumably he owned that recording studio, correct?
It was in his home.
Right. I have nothing further.
Any questions on behalf of Mr. McDavid?
No questions, Judge. Thank you. Oh, my bad, bro. Was you gonna do that?
Well, go ahead and take a 15-minute recess, and then we'll have cross-examination. All rise. Everybody, can you be at ease? Miss Judge. Miss Judge. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There's a 15-minute break, so if you don't mind just waiting there, thank you.
Recess had. Jury is in. All rise. Please be seated. Ms. Pozzolo, you may question the witness.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, on direct examination.
I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and switch and bring in A2L as Ms. Pozzolo.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, on direct examination, you testified that between 1998 and 2000, you were an engineer at Tracks, correct?
Intern and engineer. Then engineer.
And during your time, you became familiar with the different rooms at Chicago Tracks.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
All right. Now, you became familiar with those rooms in the studio that were used by Robert Kelly, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And one of those rooms used by Robert Kelly was a room called the Skyview Room, correct?
There was a room in the studio called Skyview. It was used for a variety of different things throughout the time in which I worked at Chicago Tracks.
And Mr. Kelly was one of those people that used that room, correct?
I can't recall for sure, but likely.
And you're also asked on direct examination about your involvement in cashing checks as part of your job duties, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you specifically were testifying about a check that was either 125 or 120,000, correct?
It wasn't a check that was not a check that I cashed.
Okay. Can you explain what you did then?
Sure. I was told to go to the bank to pick up the cash. I was brought to a room in the bank at the and they had the cash there, counted it out, and wrapped it into little whatever those foils that go around them, and then they stacked them up, and then I left with them. So it was already. I mean, I called ahead to say I was going to come by to pick up this money.
And when was that?
I'm not completely sure. Somewhere between 2004, 2005 time frame, I believe, but I can't be sure.
And what bank was it?
Bank of America.
And you stated that you put the cash in your backpack.
That's correct, as I can recall.
And there was no security guard with you?
No, just somebody there to pick me up and bring me back to the studio.
In 2006 and 2007, you were not cashing checks that were in that amount. Is that correct?
That's the only time I cashed a check that was that large, or I'm sorry, even picked up cash that was that large, because that one was a check. That one wasn't a check.
Because you testified that you have cashed other checks in. I'm focusing on 2006 and 2007. Is that right?
I would have cashed checks in 2006 and 2007.
Okay. I'd like to show you what's been admitted into evidence, and I'm marking this particular page, Government Exhibit 347.
Tanya?
I'm Miss Pizzola.
Yeah. You Miss Pizzolo and Bonjean, because she's reading.
No, she's Pizzolo.
Okay. And just for the witness, please.
Oh yeah.
The document camera. Thank you. I'm zooming in on one check from the Kelly home account dated June 29th or June 29th, 2006. Do you see that, Mr. Arnold?
I do, yes.
And do you recognize this check?
I recognize the account that it's from, but I don't know what this specific one was specifically for.
Who was it issued to?
I mean, it's issued paid to the order of Thomas Arnold.
And what was the amount?
$25,000.
And can you make out what is stated in the memo line? I'll zoom in a little bit.
It says, Robert Kelly. I can't really tell what the next thing is, but it says signed by RK, okayed by DM. I'm not sure what that word says after Robert Kelly.
Judge, I'm going to object just to the fact that I'm not sure he's reading that correctly, and he's speculating as to what it says, but...
Well, he's indicating he doesn't know, so keep reading.
Your Honor, may I publish Government Exhibit 347 to the jury, please?
Are you admitting it into evidence?
It has been admitted as part of the bank records already.
Okay.
This is just one check we pulled out and marked. May I, Your Honor?
I think it's on the record, isn't it?
It is. I just marked this particular check for tracking purposes, this page.
We have no objection to that.
Government Exhibit number 347 was received in evidence.
So I'm going back to this check that was written to you by the Kelly home account in June, 2006. You stated that the amount was for $25,000, correct?
That's what it says here. Yes.
And at that time, in 2006, Mr. Kelly was using this Seaway bank account. Is that right?
Yes. That appears to be correct.
And at that time, in 2006, this check for $25,000 was one of the larger checks that you were asked to cash, correct?
Not necessarily. It's not uncommon to have gotten a check. Not necessarily frequently, but not uncommon to get a check like this.
Okay, so I think I'm not understanding your answer. Were there occasions where you received in 2006, 2007 checks that were much larger than this amount for $25,000?
I'm going to object to the vagueness of that question. I don't know what much larger means.
Wait a minute.
Also, the time frame is
Overruled. He can answer those years, which much larger than this check, I guess.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. In 2006 and 2007, did you receive checks that were in greater amounts than $25,000?
I may have. I can't be certain.
Was something refresh your recollection?
I don't know.
Was your grand jury testimony refresh your recollection?
Of whether I received a check that was greater than $25,000 at some point in time?
Yeah.
It's completely possible. I don't recall all the checks or what I was required to sign.
Okay, Your Honor, I'd like to show this witness only the document camera, please.
Is this for to refresh recollection?
Yes, Your Honor, to refresh at this point.
All right, show it to him.
Okay, Mr. Arnold, you can read through page 82, starting at the top. And let me know when you're finished reading that page. There was one more page.
Okay.
Okay. So a couple of questions. Is your memory refreshed about your experience in cashing checks around 2006, 2007?
I recognize everything that's on here, yes.
Okay. So to the question of whether you received checks in 2006 and 2007 in the amount that were much greater than $25,000, did you or did you not receive such checks?
And what you're displaying on here indicates that I may have said the wrong amount. I don't recall. I'm not sure how to answer the question. I'm sorry. Can I speak about what I'm seeing on the screen?
The question is, did you, in 2006 and 2007, receive checks that were much greater than $25,000?
I can't be sure. There was lots of
hold on. You skip past 10. I'm how you read 10, but hold one moment. CJ.
Hi guys.
Hey.
She said, "Hi guys."
I love what you do.
Hi guys.
CJ, we missed you. How you been?
it's been a bit.
I told you all that I was gonna start a new job on this past Tuesday. So like leading up to it, I was just getting my world together.
Congratulations on the new job.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congrats. Hey, so CJ, I'm gonna have you.
I've been in the bushes though the whole time.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna have you. We're gonna have you bounce back and forth between. So Tanya's reading Bonjean right now. If you could read Miss Judge, because I think that A2L is reading Miss Pozzolo. If you could read Miss Judge when she comes in, and we'll bounce you back and forth. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We can start at 10, please.
I may have.
Okay. So what amounts have did you receive in 2006 and 2007?
I can't be sure. There was lots of different. It could have been another multiple check for 25. Could have gotten for some more. It might have been easy to just explain this. An instance as to reason why I might have need to pick up a check like that. We were traveling quite frequently to cover for costs for fuel, for multiple business, buses and stuff. The checks could have been large, could be large. I don't know what check you showed me was specifically for, but it wasn't an uncommon check to get 25,000. And I'm sure, that could have been instances that I received larger checks that were due to be cashed and brought.
Did you receive checks that were in the amount of $200,000?
Not that I recall.
And you were testifying about picking up money from a bank, and that was the $125,000.
And that's what I just testified to. Yes.
But isn't it true that amount was actually $75,000?
And it may have been. I have recalled it as being 125, which is why I stated that I did before. If that's incorrect, I did not. I mean, I do not remember it that way at this point.
Well, it's correct what you're saying. That's the correct testimony. So is your testimony that the withdrawal was for $125,000 at the bank?
I can't be certain. It was a while back, so I'm not exactly sure whether it was 75 or 125 at this point.
Okay. So do you recall testifying before the grand jury on November 14th in 2019?
I do.
And looking at page 83 of your grand jury statement, which is the page that I just had in front of you.
Uh-huh.
Did you not testify about an occasion where you went to Bank of America and picked up $75,000 and had to watch them count it all out, put it in a backpack, and brought it to whomever was at the whoever he was at the time that he gave it? Put it in a backpack and brought it to whomever he was at the time and gave it to him?
That's correct.
Is that the same occasion you're testifying about today?
It is.
As you stated, that after you had the $75,000 in cash, the person that picked you up was June Brown, correct?
That's correct.
And so Mr. Kelly trusted June Brown to transport you and that cash to its destination.
I'm going to object to the speculation, Judge, the state of mind of Mr. Kelly.
Well, the objection is sustained. Ms. Pozzolo? A2L?
One moment, Your Honor, nothing further.
Any redirect? That would be CJ.
The government. Is it the question?
14.
14. I apologize, guys. Yes, Judge. Very quickly. The government.
Remove your mask.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. The government just asked you about the $100,000 that you picked up at a bank. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I believe you walked to that bank. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
And you testified that Milton Brown picked you up?
Yes.
Can you tell the jurors why he picked you up, if you know?
as I recall, so I wouldn't have to walk back to the studio coming back with, from the bank.
With $100,000 in cash in your backpack.
Objection. It's misstates testimony. He testified it was 75,000.
With the money I picked up from the bank, yes.
So if you had $75,000 or $100,000 in your backpack in cash, you didn't feel comfortable walking home from the bank. You wanted a ride. Is that right?
I mean, I would. If it wasn't asked for, I would definitely have requested a ride.
Thank you. Nothing further.
I have a couple questions, Your Honor.
You can step down.
Judge, I have a couple questions.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, Mr. Kelly worked almost exclusively with cash, right?
Almost exclusively.
Yeah.
Yes.
He wasn't someone who has a credit card. He wasn't someone who was a credit card guy or anything like that, right?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Well, it's not my witness.
Well,
he is not my witness.
go ahead.
He wasn't someone who, used credit cards. He was someone who used cash to buy things, right?
Yes, I mean, other people's credit cards, perhaps, but not his.
Okay. And it was not unusual for you to get cash to give to him for his personal use, right?
It was not uncommon, no.
Okay. I have nothing further.
You can step down. Call your next witness, please. Your Honor, on behalf of Daryl McDavid, we call Ronald Winters. Sir, please raise your right hand. When you testify, you may remove your mask, please. Okay, Mr. Thompson? Thank you, Your Honor. Ronald Winters, defendant, McDavid's witness, duly sworn, direct examination. State your name and spell your last for the court reporter. Actually, who's going to read this? Let me see. Who is this reading this? This is Mr. Thompson, Ronald Winters. Do you want to be Ronald Winters? Or you want to switch to a lawyer?
Who is one? Is Ronald Winters the
He's a licensed and private investigator. Your call, bro.
It's whatever, bro.
You can stay on the stand. It's cool.
I don't like being on the stand.
Come off the stand, be the lawyer.
Oh no, I do not like being on the stand. Let's get that clear right now.
You can make him a kind of gangster as a private investigator. Like, yeah.
You say I could make him which one?
You can make him kind of gangster as a private investigator. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Okay.
You know. All right. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's go with it.
Be a sleazy one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Here. Oh, okay. Cool. I like that. I would take that from now on. Suggestions.
Let's roll.
All right.
14.
State your name and spell your last for the court reporter.
Ronald Winters. Winters.
How old are you, sir?
42.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a licensed private investigator.
How long have you been working as a licensed private investigator?
15 years.
Have you ever testified in court before today?
Yes.
Approximately how many times?
20.
Prior to getting your private investigator's license, what were you doing for a living then?
I'm a personal assistant.
Who are you a personal assistant to?
Attorney Edward Jenson.
Now, what type of practice did Mr. Edward Jenson have?
Criminal defense.
And can you describe the nature of his practice? I mean, I don't, have a personal assistant, but so what kind of practice did he have?
He represented high profile claims, like, state senators, state representatives, governors, celebrities.
When did you first start working for Edward Jenson?
1998.
And can you describe what types of tasks you performed for Mr. Jenson?
Mr. Jenson was a handicap, so I helped him with you know. I got his lunch, coffee for him, dry cleaning, drove him around, anything he needed.
Were you doing any legal work for him or anything like that?
Yeah, I would drop off papers to the building, to this building, which was right across the street from his office.
Did you ever interview witnesses along with Mr. Jenson in
No.
his office?
No.
Did anybody interview witnesses with Mr. Jenson when he met with them in his office?
No.
Okay. Were you working as Mr. Jenson's personal assistant during the spring of 2007?
Yes.
At that time, were you aware that Mr. Jenson had a client named Robert Kelly?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Mr. Kelly yourself?
Yes.
Did you or were you aware of whether or not Mr. Kelly was married at the time?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Mr. Kelly's wife during that time period?
Yeah, I have.
Approximately how many times?
Maybe 3 or 4.
Did you ever meet Daryl McDavid during this time period?
Yes.
And what were the circumstances under which you met Daryl McDavid?
He'd come back to the office on occasion, a couple of times a week.
When you say the office, which office are you referring to?
53rd West Jackson, Suite 1420.
And was that Mr. Jenson's office at the time?
Yes.
During Mr. Jenson's representation of Robert Kelly back in the 2007 time period or before, were you ever aware of videotapes related to Mr. Kelly being brought into Mr. Jenson's office?
Yes.
And can you describe the circumstances under which you became familiar with that happening?
Mr. Jenson had an investigator named John Ironman, fanatic, who would bring him by. And when Mr. Ironman would leave, Mr. Jenson would call me and put the tape in the VCR.
Now, first of all, about how many times did you say Iron Man? Bring in a videotape in this fashion?
6 to 7 times.
6 or 7 times. Well, what happened to the videotapes after Mr. Iron Man brought them in? Are you there, sir? Are you okay? You need a drink of water?
Mr. Jenson, he kept the tapes in his possession, I guess.
Okay, and you said that he or Mr. Jenson asked you to do what with the tapes?
Play them for him, put them in the VCR, press play.
Why were you the one physically handling the tapes and pressing play on the VCR?
Well, the TV wasn't in front of Mr. Jenson, so he was a handicap. So I would work it for him.
When you play the videotapes from Mr. Jenson, did you view the contents of them?
Yes.
And in general terms, can you describe what you saw on these tapes?
Mr. Kelly and women and women having sex.
You said this happened on 6 or 7 different occasions. Did you view the tapes on all of those occasions?
Yes.
did Mr. Kelly appear on each of those 6 or 7 tapes?
Yes.
Was it the other, or was it the same other? Was it the same woman on each of the other tapes?
It was different women in each tape.
Based on your viewing of the tapes, did any of the women who appeared on those specific tapes appear to you to be underage?
Objection, Your Honor. Could we have a sidebar?
Proceedings heard at sidebar on the record. So they are having a sidebar. Everything is redacted.
That's a lot.
That's a damn lot. Yeah.
Ugh, look at
So
that.
Man, come on now.
So they just brought up, what they bring up, 6 or 7
Damn.
other tapes.
Damn.
Yeah, they had a
Oh my
lot to talk about. Whoa.
Wow.
Wow,
I'm
that's the
so
longest
glad
sidebar.
I'm not reading that.
Yeah,
I
6 or
think that's
7
the
tapes.
longest sidebar I've ever seen. That's been blocked
Yeah,
out.
that
I
was-
think that's the longest one.
They must have went ham up there.
They were like, no,
a different
no,
woman
no.
in each tape.
Yes.
6
End of
or 7.
sidebar.
But
Proceed,
see, you
Mr.
got to think
Thompson.
about the.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, bro.
No,
Get
you
your
good.
point out.
No, you good. No.
No, get your point out. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Like even with 6 or 7 tapes, okay, that's 6 or 7. That's still like either different tapes. It may be different people on different tapes. You know, again, this nigga from Chicago. He gonna keep recording on that tape.
Exactly, K-Love 92. Like that long I am a king speech I had yesterday. I have a dream speech. Good.
Yeah.
Great. All right, here we go. All right, Mr. Winters, when you viewed these videotapes along with Mr. Jenson, the ones that were brought in by John Ironman that you discussed, did any of the women who appeared on them appear to you based on your objections to be underage?
No.
Did anybody other than John Ironman bring in videotapes associated with R. Kelly into Mr. Jenson's office during the time period of 2007?
No. I mean, yes.
And who was that?
Mr. McDavid.
Daryl McDavid?
Daryl McDavid, yes.
On how many occasions did Daryl McDavid bring in videotapes into the office?
Once.
And do you recall when that happened?
It was the spring of 2007.
Spring of 2007?
Yes.
Could it have been April, or does that sound right?
It's the springtime, yes.
What did you observe when Mr. McDavid brought a videotape into Mr. Jenson's office in the spring of 2007?
What do you mean?
Well, did you see him come in with it?
No. Did I see that? No. He just came in.
You said he handed it off.
No, I did not.
What did you say?
No. I said he just came in. And it was just like,
Oh, he just came in?
yeah.
And how did you know there was a videotape?
The same process with John Ironman. Mr. McDavid left. Mr. Jenson called me. Mr. Jenson called me. And, in to play the tape.
So, at the time that you played the tape for Mr. Jenson, was Mr. McDavid in the office on that occasion?
No.
And did you, in fact, play that tape for Mr. Jenson?
Yes.
Did you view its contents?
Yes.
What did you see on the videotape on that occasion after McDavid left the office?
Mr. Kelly having sex with 2 women.
You indicated there were 2 women on this videotape. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you recognize any of those women?
One of them appeared to be his wife.
Whose wife?
Mr. Kelly's.
And at that time, you said that you had already met Mr. Kelly's wife at that time.
Yeah.
Approximately how many times?
4.
No further questions. Any questions from Mr. Kelly?
No, Mr. Kelly adopts.
Miss Judge, any questions from Mr. Brown?
Thank you. No questions.
Cross-examination. Mr. Julian, you may question. Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Winters.
Good afternoon.
Would you mind telling me again what exactly you were doing at Mr. Jenson in the time period of 2007? You said you were working for him.
Yes. As a personal assistant, so if he wanted coffee, lunch, driven around, anything.
Were you doing legal work for Mr. Jenson in 2007?
Meaning like dropping off paperwork here? Yeah. But because I don't think in 2007 it may not have been a docket system that they use now. You have to physically bring the papers across the street. So stuff like that.
Was it part of your job duties back in 07? I'm asking about to analyze evidence.
No.
So when you're talking about these videotapes that Mr. Thompson was asking you about on direct examination, would you say that it was part of your job functions to look at the tapes? You say, this is, common either way. You now, good or bad, or as to the defense, clients that Mr. Jenson was representing, does that make sense?
Yes, but it wasn't it wasn't a part of my job. No.
Did anyone ask you at that time, including Mr. Jenson, hey, what do you think about this videotape that we're watching?
No.
Nobody asked you about the age of the participants.
No.
All right. These tapes that Mr. Thompson asked you about on direct examination, I think you testified that Mr. McDavid would bring them in. Who was the other person?
John Ironman.
John Ironman. Do you know where these tapes came from?
Do I know?
Yeah.
No.
So, for example, you don't know if the tape that Mr. McDavid brought into the office and you say featured Mr. Kelly and his wife. You don't know where the tape came from.
I do not.
That tape, you don't know if it came from someone named Keith Morrell?
I do not.
Mr. McDavid never said to you, hey, this videotape that I'm popping in featuring Mr. Kelly and Mrs. Kelly, this came from Keith Morrell.
No.
Objection. It misstates testimony, Your Honor. I'm asking him a question. Oh, I'm asking him a question, Your Honor. He didn't say anything about Mr. McDavid popping in a videotape. Just a second. I'll rephrase the question, Your Honor. All right. Just to be clear, the videotape that you saw Mr. McDavid bring to either you or Ed Jenson, That's what I'm talking about. Are you following me? The videotape. The one you said Mr. McDavid brought to the office.
Okay.
Nobody said to you, including Mr. McDavid, that this tape came from Keith Morrell.
Nobody told me that. No.
Nobody said to you that the tape McDavid brought to the office came from someone named Lisa Van Allen.
That's correct. Nobody told me that. No one told me that.
When did you start watching tapes in connection with Kelly's defense?
I'm sorry?
When was the start? Like, when was the earliest that you watched a videotape in connection with Kelly's defense?
2004, maybe.
Have you ever seen a videotape depicting Mr. Kelly and another person and a setting of it appearing to be a log cabin? Is Miss Bond...
I'm going to object as outside the scope.
I don't think it is, Your Honor. Overruled. That's you, bro.
What number we have, my father?
7.
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Have you ever seen a videotape depicting Mr. Kelly and another person in the setting for it appeared to be a black and white checkered floor?
A flow?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't recall.
Never seen that. Okay. Have you ever seen a videotape where there's someone appearing to be Mr. Kelly and another person in the bedroom wearing white lingerie?
No.
Do you know who Jane is?
No.
Have you ever seen a videotape depicting Mr. Kelly and 2 other people? That's a threesome. In a log cabin room or a setting where there's brown wood paneling everywhere.
No.
So the videotape, to be clear, that you are talking about with that Mr. McDavid brought to the office, your office being Mr. Jenson's office, that you say depicted Andrea Kelly and Robert Kelly, the setting for that tape was not a room with wood paneling everywhere.
Again, I said it appeared to be his wife. And I did not. It's a sex tape. I'm not paying attention to the scenery.
Wow.
It's so much truth to that. Yeah, flower paper, flower wallpaper,
I just, again, some of us seem to have found humor in child exploitation. My question is, Tanya.
Objection. That is absolutely improper. It misstates his testimony.
No.
No. It misstates his testimony.
I'm not asking about his testimony. I'm asking about the laughter in the courtroom. Hold on. Let's everybody calm down. Ask a question, Mr. Julian. Yes, Your Honor. Get back on track. Mr. Winters, just so we're on the same page, and I want to make sure.
And I'm going to object to asked and answered because this is common where he doesn't get the answer he wants and then he just rephrases it and hopes that something different will happen the next time.
I don't know if that's an objection, Your Honor, but again,
Objection.
I'm trying to
Because I know exactly where
clarify
you are going.
what he just said, because I said something, he disagreed with it, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not putting words in his mouth. Sheesh. Mr. Winters, to be clear, because I asked you a question about it being Andrea Kelly, you're saying you're not sure who was on that tape.
It appeared to be his wife.
All right, so that tape, again, just to make sure we're on the same page, let's just call it the tape McDavid bought.
Okay.
So we're on the same page, because as far as you know, you only bought one, he only bought one tape.
That's correct.
All right. So I'll just call it the tape that McDavid bought. In the tape that Mr. McDavid bought, as you sit here right now, you can't say what the background setting for that tape was because you weren't paying attention to the background setting.
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Winters, were you ever present for any conversations or any time someone named Lisa Van Allen might have come to Ed Jenson's office?
Nah, no.
If someone named Lisa Van Allen had come to Mr. Jenson's office, you wouldn't know anything about what had been discussed.
That's correct.
The same question asked to someone named Keith Morrell. If someone named Keith Morrell had come to Mr. Jenson's office, were you present for that?
I could have been, but I wouldn't have been in the office, or I would have been at my desk, at my desk station.
You don't have any recollection of meeting someone named Keith Morrell at Ed Jenson's office?
No, I ain't meet him.
Give me one moment, Your Honor. Mr. Winters, just a couple more questions. You mentioned that Mr. Ironman brought some tapes, most of the tapes that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Who is Mr. Ironman?
He is a private investigator.
Is that somebody else who you wasn't employed with Mr. Jenson?
A subcontractor. Like he wasn't. He didn't work. He's just, like a private investigator. He calls, I need Ironman, to go do something for me. He wasn't on Jenson's payroll, so I was a hired worker.
You were a hired worker, or he was a hired worker?
He was a hired worker.
How long have you known that person? Let me ask a question a different way. You say you started working for Mr. Jenson in late 1990s.
1998, yes.
Okay, so from 1998, when did you stop working for him?
When did it stop?
Yeah.
2019.
So from 1998 to 2019, how long was Mr. Ironman a subcontractor or someone that Mr. Jenson would use?
From 1998 to about 2010, I would say. He passed away in 2013.
Mr. Ironman, was he a licensed private investigator like you?
I believe so, yes.
you were asked some questions about the age of the participants in the what I'll refer to as what we're calling a tape that McDavid bought.
Okay.
If someone did appear to be underage, would that have been something that you noticed? In other words, you paid enough attention to the tape that you viewed and the other tapes that you viewed to have noticed the age of the participants.
Yes.
And if anyone were underage in the different tape or tape that McDavid bought, you would have noticed that.
Yes.
All right. Nothing further, Your Honor. Anything further, Mr. Thompson? No further questions, Your Honor. You can step down. Call your next witness.
Judge, I think for our purposes, we were looking to call one of the agents for the purposes of proving up impeachment. I don't know if they are available.
Judge, as I understand, go ahead and be Mr. Brindley.
Judge, as I understand it, the prova witness for Mr. McDavid, the agent is going to be here after the lunch break. So I don't think she's here now, unless I'm wrong, because I think we told her to be here after 1 o'clock or something like that.
Are there any witnesses here now then?
No, Judge, I don't believe so.
We can get the case agent. Your Honor, she's in the building.
Pardon?
We can get the case agent. We need just a minute.
In a minute?
Yes?
All right. Which agent are we getting? Mr. Brindley? Showtime.
Sorry, on mute. Molina, Judge. Molina.
Okay. Please stand and raise your right hand. Please be seated. Miss Bonjean, you may question the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
CJ, can you be Miss Molina, please?
Sure can.
Amelia Molina, defendant Kelly's witness, duly sworn, direct examination.
Good morning, agent, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I understand you are known as a special agent. What does that mean exactly?
I'm a criminal investigator for Homeland Security investigations.
Okay. And how long have you worked as a criminal investigator for Homeland Security?
12 years.
And Homeland Security conducts investigations, criminal investigations, it sounds like, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, they were instrumental in conducting the investigation that brings all of us here today. Is that right?
Correct.
And did you work on this case from its inception, or did you come in at a later point?
I was assigned back in March of 2019. I was one of the co-case agents.
Okay. And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury sort of what your responsibilities are as a special agent investigating a criminal case such as this?
Sure. We received information in regards to this case. We conducted various interviews of witnesses, gathered evidence, and presented that to the U.S. attorneys.
And as part of your duties and responsibilities as a case agent investigating a criminal case, do you sometimes memorialize interviews with witnesses?
Correct.
And how do you memorialize interviews with witnesses?
In a report of investigation.
And do you yourself author those reports of investigations? Or do you if it's a co-agent, would it be you and your co-agent?
Correct.
Is it a collective process, or is it usually one person in charge of authoring it?
Depending on who took the notes, that person would write the report of the investigation.
Okay. And I take it you are pretty familiar with the reports of investigations that you either authored or co-authored or were instrumental in preparing.
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of questions for you about that.
Okay.
Specifically, I want to talk about an interview that was conducted with a witness by the name of Lisa Van Allen. Do you know who Lisa Van Allen is?
Yes.
Have you met her on a number of occasions?
Yes.
Okay. And specifically, on November 13th of 2019, did you have an opportunity to interview Lisa Van Allen in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes, I did.
And during that interview, did you confront Lisa Van Allen with the fact that she must have been 18 years old when she met Mr. Kelly, if in fact she met him at this Home Alone video?
We provided her with information regarding the Home Alone video.
And what information did you provide her?
I believe it was a Sony document of the Home Alone video.
And when did the Home Alone video shoot?
I'd have to refresh my memory for the report for the exact date.
Sure, I'd be happy to provide it to you. If you could put up the November 13th, 2019, and if you...
This is a screen? Just go on. Go ahead, Tanya. This is a touchscreen?
Yeah, can you pull out the paragraph for her? It's page 6 of 7. Let me know when you orient yourself.
The contract said that it was filmed in September of 1998.
And did you tell Miss Van Allen that she would have been 18 years old during the filming of the video?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you some questions about an interview that you participated in on June 12th of 2019 related to an individual who we are calling Pauline. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Do you remember conducting an interview with your colleagues of Pauline on June 12th of 2019 in Oak Park, Illinois?
Yes.
Okay. And is it your understanding that that was the first interview that was conducted with Pauline by agents of Homeland Security?
I'd have to look at the sequence of the interviews. If it's the first one that's annotated, then yes, that was the first one.
What would help you figure that out? If you looked at the report, would that give you any indication?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe go to the first page of it.
Okay.
And does that indicate an independent recollection of that interview, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Do you have an independent recollection of that interview, by the way?
I do not.
Okay. Now, during that June 12th, 2019 interview, Pauline described an incident where she discovered Mr. Kelly and Jane in this log cabin or pine room. Do you remember that part of the interview?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to put that piece aside for just a second, okay? And apart from that disclosure, isn't it true that Pauline never disclosed that she herself was in a sexual relationship with Mr. Kelly at the age of 14 or 15 or even 16?
No, she disclosed that later on.
She disclosed it in a later interview, right?
Correct.
During that first interview, she did not disclose that, correct?
Correct.
And she also did not disclose that she herself had participated in any threesomes with Jane. Again, during that first interview when you interviewed her, right?
Correct.
All right. And I want to now turn your attention to a report that was prepared. And by the way, I want to make it clear. I'm not suggesting she didn't disclose that at a later point, but I'm just talking specifically about June 12th, 2019. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about September 19th, 2019. Do you remember conducting an interview of a woman by the name of Kelly Weatherspoon?
Yes.
Okay. And first of all, did you prepare a report in connection with that interview?
I did.
And during that interview, isn't it true that Miss Weatherspoon told you that she did not remember if they went to Mr. Kelly's recording studio the day of the Women's Expo or a few days after?
I'd have to see the report.
Sure.
Go ahead, A2L. Ms. Pizzola.
Your Honor, may we have a sidebar? Please. We have an objection we'd like to discuss.
Proceedings heard at sidebar on the record. As you
So
can
many
see, it
sidebars
is
today.
redacted. Yeah.
Oh,
Proceed. Proceed.
thank you. Can you pull up the report for the agent and pull out the section? Okay. Now, drawing your attention to the last sentence of this paragraph. Do you see that, agent?
Yes.
Okay, great. Have you had a chance to look at it?
I have, yes.
Okay. Weatherspoon told you that she did not remember if they went to the recording studio that day or a few days after, right?
Correct.
Okay. And isn't it true on that same day, and we're talking about that same date, that Miss Weatherspoon disclosed to you that Tracy, at the time that she, hold on, let me get that right. Okay. At the time Tracy, well, Weatherspoon told you that at the time Tracy went to the Westin Hotel with Mr. Kelly, she stated that Miss Tracy was no longer in high school and may have been 18 years old.
Can you point me to the...
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Page?
It's page 4 of 5.
Yes, that's what's documented on the report.
Okay. And just to be clear, that you wouldn't have documented something that the witness didn't tell you, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that on September 19th of 2019, that Miss Weatherspoon never told you that Tracy was or might have been 16 years old at any point when she went to the Westin Hotel with Mr. Kelly? And if you want to look at the whole report.
Yeah, if I can, please.
Sure. Let me know when you want us to go to the next page.
Can I start from the beginning?
Absolutely.
Can you turn to the next page?
Yes.
Do you have the actual document?
Sure. That's probably easier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was your question again?
My question is, she never said that Tracy was 16 or may have even been 16, correct?
It doesn't say that in the document, no.
Okay. And again, if she had said that, you would have reported that in your document, right?
If we would have asked it, yes.
Okay. And obviously, age was an important issue in your interview. So if she told you that she believed Tracy was 16, you certainly would have memorialized that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, I want to ask, I'll take that back if you don't mind. You know who Jane is, correct?
Yes.
And do you know who Tracy is as well?
Yes.
Okay. So you would be able to recognize both those women, correct?
Yes.
All right. I want to ask you about an interview you conducted with Jane on May 27th of 2019 in Oak Brook Terrace, Illinois. Do you recall meeting with Jane in and around that date?
Yes.
All right. And during your interview with Jane, when you interviewed her, did you ask her to look at a series of photos to see if she could recognize individuals in a series of photos?
Yes.
All right. And did Homeland Security actually put together a sort of index of all the photos that Jane was asked to look at?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true on May 27th, 2019, you showed a photo of Tracy?
Sorry about that. Yes.
And isn't it true that she did not recognize that person.
Yes.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Brindley, you may question the witness. Mr. Brindley? Is Mr. Brindley watching Showtime in the back of the office?
Showtime at the Apollo.
Yeah. Where is I guess he
Hey,
Clayton King?
thank you, thank you, Your Honor. Agent Molina, do you recall participating in an interview with Lisa Van Allen on the 26th of April 2019?
Yes.
Okay. And I have some questions about some statements that were made by Miss Van Allen and reported by you in your report. And if you need to have me show it to you, just let me know, okay?
Will do.
Okay. Now, during the interview that she gave on April the 26th on 2019, did Lisa Van Allen tell you that she and Keith Morrell were interviewed at the attorney's office about whether any of the copies of the videotapes were made, and that she said she recalled watching the video in the attorney's office with Daryl McDavid? Did she tell you that?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this impeachment. This witness did not author this report. We can discuss it sidebar if you'd like.
Judge, she said she was present. Well, let me ask. Let me ask you.
Well, you can ask her.
Yes. Let me ask you a question. Agent Molina, as a case agent in this case, you reviewed the reports, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You're familiar with the contents, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're familiar with their contents generally.
Yes.
Okay. And April 26th is an interview you participated in. Is that right?
I was present.
Okay. And so during that interview, did Lisa Van Allen tell you that she recalled the video in the attorney's office with Mr. McDavid?
Go back a little bit. She recalled what?
She recalled watching, my correction, Your Honor. She recalled watching the video in the attorney's office with Mr. McDavid.
Can I see the report?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm going to show first. I show you the first. But first, let me get the document camera, if I could, please. This is going to be referring to the defense exhibit McDavid 17. Just to show you the top paragraph, you recognize this as report of the interview that you were present for on April 26, 2019?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to the third page of this report. And the portion that's highlighted here in yellow. If you can go ahead and take a look at that and see if that refreshes your memory about what was stated by Lisa Van Allen.
Okay, one moment. What was your question again?
My question is, did Lisa Van Allen tell you that she viewed this videotape with Mr. McDavid in an attorney's office?
Correct.
And during that same interview, did Lisa Van Allen, tell you that an attorney at the office asked her to make a video record statement denying that she had sex with Kelly and Jane? She agreed to make the statement and it was recorded. Did she say that?
I'd like to see the.
Of course, the same exhibit. I'm going to draw your attention to the part highlighted here. The sentence beginning with she added.
Yes, that's what it states there.
Okay, so then that she, an attorney asked her to make that statement, correct?
That's.
That's what it says in the report that was prepared after you interviewed.
Correct.
And during that same, and I'll just go ahead and show it to you so you can look at it as we go along here. The same exhibit.
Thank you.
During the same interview with Lisa Van Allen, did she indicate that she returned to Chicago on another occasion to receive a final payment from Kelly and that the payment did not materialize?
That's what she told us.
Okay, and in fact, were there multiple occasions when Lisa Van Allen that you're aware of when Lisa Van Allen told agents that this interaction where the videotape was supposed to be viewed with Mr. McDavid took place at a lawyer's office?
I'd have to review the other documents
Okay,
to make that determination.
I'm going to show you. So, first, I'm going to show you Defense Exhibit McDavid 16. Defense Exhibit McDavid 16, if you can take a look, is an interview done in March of 2019 with Lisa Van Allen. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And this is at a time when this is one of the reports conducted during the investigation when you were a case agent, correct?
This is a New York report.
And did you review this as part of your investigation?
No, I did not.
You didn't review it at all?
No.
All right. Very well. Did you? Were you part of the group that put together Lisa Van Allen's grand jury statement?
For Chicago? Yes.
Okay. And so when she made her grand jury statement in Chicago, just one moment, please. I'm going to show you a copy of
18.
Defendant's Exhibit McDavid 18. This appears to be the grand jury statement of Lisa Van Allen, correct?
Correct.
And you are familiar with its contents and were present as it was being prepared, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to draw your attention to the 10th page of this document. Well, we'll start with the 9th page. At the 9th page of her grand jury statement referring to Keith Morrell, did Miss Van Allen indicate he still had the tape and he agreed to fly to Chicago with me to return the tape? This was in the spring of 2007 when we got to Chicago. Robert's personal assistant, June Brown, drove us to the attorney's office on Jackson Street in downtown Chicago. And then it goes on to say, we got to go to the building. Keith and I met Daryl McDavid in his attorney's office. Daryl and I watched the videotape that Keith brought to Chicago. Does that reflect what was put in the grand jury statement based on Lisa Van Allen's interviews with you prior to the statement being prepared?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Miss Judge, anything from Mr. Brown?
Nothing for Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Cross-examination? Good afternoon, Special Agent Molina.
Good afternoon.
I want to ask you a couple of questions before I, come to the topic that Mr. Brinley was just asking you about. But I want to ask you a question. A couple of questions about report writing. So, Ms. Bonjean and Mr. Brinley showed you during their direct examination of you a number of reports. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I'll show you one just as an example of what I'm talking about here. So I think Ms. Bonjean showed you this report. It's written by you. You see there is the date that it's on the interview on November 13th, 2009.
19, I believe. Correct.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that correction. 2019.
Correct.
And you see that there is a date approved that says July 14th of 2020.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to come back to, to that thought in a sec. Now, when you are writing a report, interviewing a witness, are the statements in the report, let me ask a question a different way. Is the statement itself the witness's statement or your statement as an agent?
My statement as the agent.
So when you write a report, isn't it the case that you take some notes on something and you write up a report later?
Correct.
So you're not typing out this finalized version of the report in front of the witness that you just interviewed.
Correct.
You don't just give this report and report that you write, to a witness to review it after you type it up.
No, I do not.
Because you just told us that you write the report, the actual report itself, sometimes later.
Correct.
And sometimes that could be a few days later or, when you write the report.
Yes.
Sometimes it may even be a week or so later.
Yes.
And in the case of this report, for example, that Ms. Bonjean showed you, it can actually take some time to get these reports approved. Is that right?
Yes.
For example, this is an interview in November of 2019, and this report wasn't approved until July of 2020. Is that right?
Correct.
So when you're, writing a report, are you writing it from the notes that you had as an interviewer that you took during the interview?
Yes.
So those aren't the witness's notes that you're writing in this report.
Correct.
When you have a final version of the report, you don't offer it to a witness to review it or for accuracy or sign or anything like that, do you?
No, I do not.
In a case like this one, isn't it true, Special Agent, that you interviewed multiple witnesses multiple times?
Yes, we
For
did.
example, Lisa Van Allen. I think Mr. Brindley just asked you about her. Would it surprise you to know that someone from HSI interviewed Miss Van Allen approximately 7 or 8 times throughout the course of this investigation?
No.
How about Pauline? Was Pauline interviewed multiple times?
Yes.
How about Miss Weatherspoon and that Miss Bonjean asked you about? Was she interviewed multiple times?
Yes.
Now, when you're interviewing a witness and you're going about, to do the interview with them multiple times, let me ask you a different way. When you interview a witness in connection with an investigation, do you tell them what the questions are before you interview them?
No, we do not.
In this case, is it true that the topics that you are interviewing, Pauline, Miss Witherspoon, Miss Van Allen, or is it true that the topics of the conversation happened some time ago?
Yes.
In some cases, 10, 20 years ago.
Correct.
And you don't know, or let me know, let them know when you're coming to interview them. I'm going to ask you about all these things that happened 20 years ago, do you?
No.
So are you familiar with Miss Witherspoon actually contacting HSI after she came to an interview in this case?
No, I am not familiar.
Would it surprise you to know that Miss Witherspoon called?
I'm going to object. She's not even on that report.
The objection is sustained. When you interview a witness in an investigation where you interview people multiple times, are the questions that you ask them geared by, or should I say, they're driven by what you as an agent know about the investigation at the time?
Correct.
So in other words, if it's the third time, then you're interviewing the witness, or the fourth or fifth time that you've learned things about the investigation that you might have known the first time that you interviewed them.
That's correct.
And when you interview a witness multiple times in your experience, have you seen witnesses remember things in subsequent interviews that they didn't remember in the first interview?
Yes.
And that's because they weren't thinking about it when they didn't know the questions and you weren't going to ask them in the first interview.
Yes.
Now, you've told us that reports written by law enforcement personnel are not witnesses' statements. Is that right?
Correct.
In this case, there are a number of grand jury statements, correct?
Yes.
The grand jury statement I think Mr. Brindley just asked you about, a grand jury statement is in fact a witness's statement.
Yes.
When you're putting together a grand jury statement, it's with input from the witness, right?
Yes.
And the witness is allowed to review it.
Yes.
And the witness does sign the grand jury statement.
Yes.
And they're going to go in and read it under oath.
Correct.
The idea of the grand jury statement is that it is in fact their statement.
Correct.
As opposed to the report, which is your statement as the person interviewing them.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Brindley asked you about whether you are familiar with the report written by Special Agent Reynolds on April 26th of 2019. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you remember being asked about an exchange where Mrs. Van Allen said the attorney asked her to make a statement in an attorney's office?
Yes.
Have you reviewed Ms. Van Allen's grand jury statement?
Just now,
And Mr. Brindley showed that to you?
Yeah.
And I think you just told the jury that the grand jury statement is, in effect, the witness's own statement.
Correct.
So I'm going to direct you to page 12. Showtime. Showtime. You're on mute.
Yeah, I sure was on mute too.
Line 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. Judge, this objection is beyond scope, and this is improper, a proper boistering.
I don't know until I see it. It's absolutely not beyond the scope, Your Honor. I don't know. What point are you pointing out? I'm pointing out these paragraphs that I have. Sorry, let me zoom out. Then I have starred here, and I'm talking about giving a statement and at whose direction she gave that statement. Mr. Brindley asked about this direction or this direct examination.
No, Judge. I asked about whether she made a certain statement during an interview, which the witness acknowledged that she did. I didn't ask about whether it was true or false, or whether she said it at any other time. So this is absolutely beyond beyond the scope. These paragraphs, like he's identified, are far more extensive and cover far more material than I asked her about. You know, and it's improper bolstering. It should be disallowed.
To be clear, to be clear, Your Honor, he asked that. He asked at whose wait direction. Wait.
No, I did ask at whose direction. I asked whether she said that.
I'm going to try to figure out what the question is going to be. Yes, Your Honor. Again, what portion of this statement are you? Is this for refreshing a recollection or what? It is not. I'm asking, just so we're on the same page.
While Miss Van Allen was on the stand, he cross-examined her on this, and just now, during direct examination, asked Special Agent Molina if in the report it says Miss Van Allen said that an attorney told her to make a statement. That's what came out on direct. What I'm going to ask her about.
I think you read my part, bro, but it's good.
Really? I don't think so.
You could, right where it says Mr. Brindley got a comma there. It's all good. It was just a continuation.
Oh, you probably, yeah, I did. My bad, bro.
That's okay. You good. Okay. Wait. Hold. I'm trying to follow. If an attorney told her to make a statement, so that's what's in this August 26, 2019 report that Special Agent Molina just, okay, so, now that's you.
Judge, I asked her whether, I asked the agent whether the witness made a particular statement at the particular interview. She said that she did. That's it. I didn't ask her whether it was true or she made some other statement on another occasion. And it's not proper for counsel to read in extensive paragraphs from a grand jury statement.
No, this is for refreshing recollection anyway.
No.
No, it's not.
Your Honor, the problem is, can I tell you what's happening, Your Honor? Originally, this was used to refresh her recollection, wasn't it?
Judge, originally I asked her whether the witness made a particular statement, not this. In a report regarding an interview, she said she couldn't remember for sure and wanted to see the report. She then confirmed with the report that the witness did make the statement and agreed. And then that was all I asked about the statement. Now, that interview report takes place. That interview took place on April 25th, long before this grand jury statement. So he can't put, like, now try to say he's got prior consistent statements. These are post-consistent statements, and they're completely inadmissible He can ask her inadmissible. I don't know. Oh wow. I don't even. It's raining over here. Okay, inadmissible. He can ask her about the report that I asked about, or the portion of the grand jury statement that I asked about. But I was very specific in asking whether she said specific things at specific times, and the witness agreed with me that she did. Therefore, this kind of presentation of multiple paragraphs and information from the grand jury is totally improper and not responsive to what I did.
I think
This
so.
this was an impeachment provo.
I think so. The objection is sustained. Your Honor, he just showed her the grand jury statement. And all I'm pointing out, she showed a page before the grand jury statement to perfect an impeachment. All I'm asking this witness, Your Honor, is if she's aware of this statement in the same grand jury statement that he just showed her, getting at the same line of questioning he just asked about on direct examination. That's all we're doing.
And that's exactly improper.
Wait. The objection is sustained. Let's move on. Let me ask you this, Special Agent Molina. These interviews, when you are interviewing a witness and you get a report, they don't really happen in a vacuum, do they?
No.
So, for example, if you interview Miss Van Allen in 2020 or 2021, you're not going to rehash everything that you already went over with her when you interviewed her in 2019 or earlier in 2020.
Correct.
Give me a moment, please, Your Honor. Anything further? Give me one second. Oh. Nothing further, Your Honor. Mr. Brinley or Miss Bonjean, anything?
No, Your Honor.
I have a couple questions, and then I'll be finished.
Okay.
Special Agent, you don't give witnesses the interview questions before you interview them because you want to get their immediate responses to the questions, right? You don't want them to prepare, right?
Correct.
And that's because you want honesty and authenticity from them, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Julian asked you about the fact that you prepare your reports off of your notes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you write your notes contemporaneous with the interview?
Yes.
Any reason to believe you would be, making up or fabricating facts in your notes before they make their way into a report?
No.
And while I know you said that your reports are not your statements, but they are your statements memorializing a witness's statements, right?
A non-verbatim? Yes.
Right. Not verbatim, but still capturing what the witness is saying in the interview, and it's your statement memorializing, in summary, their statements, right?
Yes.
You have no firsthand knowledge about these events that these witnesses are talking about, correct?
No.
And as part of your training to be a special agent and on-the-job training, you're trained to try to be accurate in your note-taking, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but could we have a sidebar for scheduling? All right, so they are redacting
We can even
this.
be a schedule.
More, we can hear about the schedule.
Right. Exactly. Damn, that's easy stuff.
Yeah.
Court members of the jury, we're going to suspend until Tuesday. We don't have any further witnesses today. We'll have more witnesses on Tuesday, and we expect to finish the case up next week without fail. So you're excused until Tuesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Have a nice weekend. Please don't discuss the case. Don't read about it. And all the other things I told you not to do. And keep healthy. All rise. The witness is excused. What I'd like to do this afternoon is to try to finalize as much as possible our instructions so, when you complete all evidence, then, we can seamlessly go into the final arguments and instructions and start their deliberations. How many lawyers I'll start out. Do all the defendants want to be present? Ms. Bonjean.
So, Mr. Kelly, I would ask to waive his appearance this afternoon. He's not feeling so great. So,
well, what I'd like to find, how many lawyers will be participating, because we can do it either here or in my chambers, but I have probably 8 to 10 chairs. So, we can do it there in open court, or, we can do it in the court reporter can be up in my chambers. That all depends on if everybody wants to be present. It probably would be better to do it here.
Let's do that. Let's do it.
In that case, I think people want to.
Yes, let's do it here, Judge.
To be present, so we'll do it here in open court. We'll start at 2. Well, let's see, it's 5 after 1, 2 o'clock. All right.
thank you.
I think I have everything that's been filed, so we'll start through instruction 1 and go all the way through until we get them done. So we'll see you at 2 o'clock.
Can you let the marshals know he doesn't have to be returned?
He doesn't have to be returned. You waived his appearance.
Correct. Appearance.
Well, take Mr. Brindley's motion to this afternoon. Luncheon recess is had. And that is the end of September 1st. I'm sorry. What was this, the 30th? I think this is the 30th. Hold on. Yeah, no, this is September 1st. Okay.
Look at us go.
Look at us go. Good job, y'all.
What are we at? 3,000 pages almost?
Man. Yeah, man. Y'all killing it.
So what was wrong with Mr. Kelly? He had an outbreak? Herpes?
He had a
y'all
he had a boo tummy.
Rude.
Y'all are silly.
Who said that? Who
He
said
didn't feel well.
What's up, K-Love?
Hello, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Missed it.
That's okay. It's okay.
What
That's
up,
okay.
Kayla?
Hey.
Man, listen, y'all. Another great job tonight. We got through it. Let me ask y'all. Tomorrow, can we come? Is tomorrow at like 9 good for everybody?
9
p.m.
9 p.m.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
good for me.
Oh yeah.
Okay, great. Let's do tomorrow at 9. That way everybody
Tomorrow-
got up.
Saturday, right? 9
Tomorrow Saturday.
Yeah.
Thank God. It was a long week.
Man, I know.
was it? Even though it was short,
Short
it was
weeks,
still
the
long.
longest.
Short weeks are the worst.
Because they be stupid. They start off dumb.
And the whole week you're thinking you have an extra day.
Yeah.
Y'all, tomorrow. So we're going into. So that was the 1st. That's the 7th. So we're going into freaking McDavid tomorrow, y'all.
Are we really? Oh,
holy crap!
After their instructions, I assume they're
after the instructions, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you got another long reader coming at, Miss.
Oh God. I'll make sure I'm prepared.
Make sure you have some water, because that voice has got to hurt after a bit.
Oh my God, I know. Listen, y'all.
Especially when you do your laugh.
Oh, I know.
Can I say something about yesterday's? Because again, I was in the bushes.
Yeah.
But so I feel as though there was a good point made yesterday about kind of just everything coming together. But it also made me kind of think of, how they always said that Kelly just would I don't want to say get away with things, but because he lived in Chicago and he knew so many people and connections, whoop de whoop de whoop, like the cops never really, you know, it was almost like an open secret that he was that dirty, and
Yeah.
you know, law enforcement never did anything. Oh yeah, it was when people were talking about that horrible lawyer lady, right, and how she probably, you know,
Susan
lied
Lawson.
and all that. Yeah, but so it made me think that who McDavid's homie, the cop that went with him to kind of like, you know, walk
Yeah,
around
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
money
yeah.
and stuff, that he
Yeah.
was probably one of the moles given our
Absolutely. Giving
kids heads
information.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, heads up before things happen and stuff like
Of
that.
course.
And I
Of
was just
course.
like, everything's dirty. It's awful.
Everything's dirty.
Everything, and hopefully it's all getting cleaned up right now.
Hopefully.
Indeed.
Hopefully.
Well, y'all listen, man. Y'all were amazing tonight. I appreciate y'all. Chat, you are also amazing. Thank you for being in here and keeping everything moving, keeping a discussion going. If y'all would please hit that like button on the way out, I would greatly appreciate it. If you would like to, I will find out tomorrow exactly how much the transcripts will be for today. As y'all know, the defense rested today, so a lot of juicy stuff came out today.
I really miss the sidebars.
I do too. Those sidebars was. Can you imagine Bonjean in the sidebar? Oh
my god.
Oh, I know she's really ratchet.
you know
in the
she was probably
sidebar.
cussing up a storm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the way you used to yell sidebars in New York, you should just whisper.
Sidebar!
You should just whisper them like,
Sidebars.
because we don't get anything secret.
Indeed. Well, y'all listen, man. Thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all. I can't express enough how thankful I am that you all have found a likeness to this channel and what I'm trying to do here. And you all are a huge part of that. So I appreciate you, everyone that comes in and listens to y'all. The channel is growing expeditiously. God is doing something amazing. I give him all the praise for what's going on. But y'all, I want y'all to know how important y'all are, and I appreciate y'all's time and energy that y'all put into this channel to make this happen.
How far are we away from 4,000?
Oh, good. Where we at, Tanya? Tanya, let us know.
Here.
I'm sorry. I was on mute. I didn't know.
39.
3,940. What?
Wow.
60
So we're
away, people. Come on, subscribe.
Wow.
I know
But
some of y'all
1,000
there
in
aren't
like
subscribed yet.
what, like 2.5 weeks?
yeah.
3 weeks, maybe?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Shout out to the Planets Jane, man. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to the
There's
chat.
153 people in here, and I hope y'all are subscribed.
Man, I hope everybody in here is subscribed too. We are only 60 away from 4,000, y'all. When we get 4,000, we are going to have a ball.
I would
You're
also say,
very.
being in the bushes for, you know, this last week or whatever, I am really impressed by how you kind of just navigate the whole show, bringing people in and out. Your breaks are timely. It's almost like you're a DJ. You're like, all right, and we're back. And you're on time when you start the sessions and everything. I really appreciate the kind of, you know, environment that you've fostered and cultivated here. I think
Absolutely, you are
it's
definitely
really
our
enjoyable.
host.
I appreciate y'all.
And you're expanding to you do them well now that I'm working again, but early in the day. But I like that you're expanding to the Sweetie Pie.
To the Tim Norman thing. Yeah. You know what? I found out
and
today,
that one's already wrapped up, and I was just like, damn.
Yep. But you know what's crazy? I found out today.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, the defense
rested rested today. Yep, sure did.
Dang. They had like a half hour. No, not half hour, but it was like barely half a day or something.
Yep, it was. Yeah, I think that is that's a wrap. He's done. Stick a fork in him. Do y'all remember us talking about someone named Kathy? I think she was a. Do y'all remember somebody?
Yeah.
So A&R lady that brought homegirl.
The one that was recruiting.
Yeah, the recruiter.
Yeah.
What's her name? Was her name Kathy or Catherine?
Kathy
Carroll with C's. C.
Kathy Carroll.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Kathy with the C, not a K.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
What? Oh, y'all, I got to give a shout out to my sister. Whitney DTV is
Hey,
in the
Whitney.
building. Y'all,
Hello, Miss
Whitney
Whitney.
D
you
is the one
doing?
that did
Hey,
my
Whitney.
video. Man, listen.
She did a great job.
Man, listen.
I
If
love it.
anybody out there got a channel and you need your channel hooked up for a very minimal fee, she will hook you up. And she also does great commentary on her channel. So y'all subscribe to her channel. Check her out, Whitney D TV. Yes. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you.
I definitely will be.
I'm part of
Yeah,
the
man.
Witness Nation. That's a great
Indeed.
channel.
Man,
Yeah, I
where's
think
Shay
that's-
been at? Where's Shay been at? Shay up there being funny in the doggone chat.
I
Ain't
think
that
Whitney's
something?
how I found you in the first
Hey,
place.
the chat been going though.
They have, bro. They have.
Chat been
Shay said, what
popping.
about the mystical trial? The mystical trial may be very
Hey,
interesting.
I'm telling you, bro. That's
Wow.
a.
Yeah,
Hey,
you know
this
what?
this
yeah.
one,
Right?
this dude,
It
it's
could go for life, right?
it's
I think that's
yeah.
a
He
good
can
way
get
to go.
life. He facing life right now
Repeat offender.
because he's a
Yeah.
repeat
Yep.
offender, and it's
Yeah, I
all
think-
serial
I think
charges.
this
It's
gonna be-
all.
You know
It's a
what,
wrap
y'all?
for him.
Honestly, here's the thing. I think that it makes sense to do that one because the freaking Tim Norman trial, I found out today, they sealed everything.
Oh wow.
I can't even get the freaking
wow.
the transcripts are sealed. They sealed the whole case. So I'm gonna, I'll still talk about a follow-up and talk about the results of that. But I think the next right to go is mystical. I think I may go ahead and dig into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey
After-
Tanya, did you find anything out about 2008? I know you said you were gonna call.
I've been slammed at work, guys, but I am gonna I am going to call for sure on Monday. This week was just crazy. We had corporate in the building all week unexpectedly.
Say no more.
So when they come around, and I'm in HR, so yeah.
Hey Shay, feel better. Are you sick? You're not feeling good? Okay, we hope you feel better, Shay.
Oh,
You know we love you. You part of our crew.
Feel better. Get well soon, Shay.
Feel better, Shay. Shout out to Missy. Missy Bay, it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Missy. But y'all listen, man, I'm getting out of here. I got to get up early tomorrow for work. But listen, tomorrow night, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time, we are going to start on what's going to be. It's going to be that's for September 7th. So y'all be ready.
7 for the second.
Bring your best game, guys.
Hold on, let me
Oh,
make sure.
Wait a minute.
For
I'm
whose
sorry. I
trial?
forgot about the holiday.
Yeah, the holiday. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, I think it's going to be.
Atmos, would you consider the Tiffany Haddish one?
Yeah. It's just
That's going to be
It's
in a
just
while,
touchy.
though. I think.
it's just it's so much. It's not really a case yet, right? It's just a bunch of allegations.
Exactly.
Well, I read, I saw the indictment in the lawsuit, and it kind of makes sense of how it came to be. So it's not even that the mom filed the lawsuit; the 22-year-old older sister did,
Okay.
and it happened 7 years ago for her. And technically, she filed it on behalf of her and her brother, because he's still only 14 currently.
Oh wow.
So when you read the whole thing, and you kind of it doesn't seem as dismissive as when we first heard it come out. That's all I'll say. I'm not saying it's a total believe them, but it's not as dismissive.
Right. Indeed. I'm gonna look into it. I'm thinking I want to do something that's gonna mean something that is gonna impact people. Something that kind of lines up with really trying to, you know what I mean. So I think y'all got some really great ideas. So we'll bounce them around and we'll come up with something though.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more tomorrow night too.
Okay. Cool.
All right, listen, y'all have a blessed night. Thank y'all for being here. And
Thank you
I
for
will
having me.
Huh? Indeed, always. Thank you for being here. Well, y'all have a blessed night.
You
Good
as well. Talk
Thank
to y'all
you.
tomorrow. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, y'all. Bye-bye. Haters, all good. Thought I couldn't when I could. Haters, all good. Thought I couldn't when I could.